Good morning, students. All of you, welcome to the new academic session and new class. My dear students, we have to prepare two copies for chemistry. One is classwork copy and another is homework copy. In classwork copy, you should prepare, you make the notes and we solve the in-text questions. And in homework copies, we should solve the NCERT exercises and the NCERT example of problems and the higher order thinking questions that you get from any reference books. Now what to learn in class 6? In class 6 we learn different chapters. In the first chapter we deal with chemical reactions and equations. In the second chapter we learn what are acids, bases and salts. In the third chapter we learn about metals and non-metals. And in the fourth chapter we learn about carbon and its compounds. And in the last chapter we should learn about periodic classification of elements. So, dear students, what is the learning objective of chapter 1? From this chapter, what we learn? First of all, we learn that how to balance a chemical reaction. And the question come to our mind, two questions. Why we balance the chemical reaction and what is the meaning of balancing a chemical equation? The meaning of a balancing chemical equation means the number of atom in the reactant side that we call in the left hand side should be each equal to the number of productant in the right hand side. So number of atoms in the reactant side is equal to the number of atoms in the productant side. Why we balance the chemical equation? Because all the chemical reactions should obey the law of conservation of mass. That is, the mass before the reaction is equal to the mass after the reaction. That is, mass of the reactant is equal to mass of the productant. Only the law of conservation mass is not followed in the nuclear reaction. And there we say that law of conservation of mass and energy. And next we learn about what are the types of chemical reaction. So in the first case we learn about the combination reaction. From the name we understand that there is combination of two or more reactant. So in combination reaction, two or more reactant combine to form a single product. That is, now you see, when we dissolve the quicklime in water, it forms the slake lime. So calcium oxide plus water, it forms calcium hydroxide. And in this reaction, we observe that there is large amount of heat is evolved. So the reaction in which large amount of heat is evolved, that is heat come outside, this type of reactions are called exothermic reaction. So now we go to the next type of reaction, that is decomposition reactions. In the decomposition reactions, a single reactant decomposes into simpler one, and the decomposition reaction takes place in different means. That is thermal decomposition by giving heat, supplying heat, in the photochemical decomposition by the supply of light, and in the process of electrolysis, that is by supplying electricity. If we heat lead nitrate, then it decomposes and we observe brown fumes. The brown fumes observe due to the formation of NO2, that is nitrogen dioxide. In photochemical decomposition, that we observe the white silver chloride turns grey in sunlight because the silver chloride decomposes and it will form silver. So electrolysis of water specifically. So in this reaction, when we supply electricity, so the water molecule decomposes and it forms hydrogen gas and oxygen, and from the reaction we observe that the volume of the hydrogen is double than that of the volume of the oxygen. Displacement reaction. My dear students, we learn this reaction from class 7 in physical and chemical chain chapter, and also in class 8 in metal and non-metals. And we know that in this reaction a highly reactive metal displaces a less reactive metal, and the most familiar reaction is the disappear of blue color of the copper sulfate when it react with zinc. So when zinc react with copper sulfate, it form zinc sulfate and copper. The blue color disappear because the highly reactive zinc metal displaces the copper metal from its salt solution. And the most common question what we get here, we get that why we don't store the copper sulfate solution in zinc vessel. In double displacement reaction, there is interchange of ions. That is, here we take a simple example, that is neutralization reaction. You see, the inner ion combine with the inner ion and the outer ion combine with the outer ion. In double displacement reaction, we also observe that there is formation of precipitate. So it is also called precipitation reactions. And next we learn about oxidation and reduction, and when simultaneously these two reaction takes place, it is called redox reaction. That is red and ox. That red come from reduction and ox come from oxidation. If you understand what is oxidation and what is reduction in terms of oxygen and hydrogen, if we add oxygen, that is oxidation, and if we add hydrogen, that is reduction, and if we remove hydrogen, that is oxidation, and if we remove oxygen, that is reduction. And in terms of loss and gain of electron, if there is gain of electron, that is reduction, and if there is loss of electron, that is oxidation. In higher class also we learn another thing, that is oxidation number. If there is increase in oxidation number, that is oxidation. If there is decrease in oxidation number, that is called reduction. From the reaction you understand that there is a removal of oxygen, so this is a reduction part, and in the S2 to water there is addition of oxygen, that is oxygen part. And as there is both oxidation and reduction takes place, this reaction also called redox reaction. And finally we should learn about rancidity and corrosion. The rusting of irons and green coating on copper, these are all example of corrosion. And that we see the Statue of Unity, that is it is shown in green color because we observe that this statue is formed from copper. And in rancidity, the fats and oils are oxidized and there is change in taste and smell. In chips packets, there is nitrogen gas provided by the companies to prevent the oxidation, and that is simply to prevent the rancidity. This is all about your chapter 1, your first chapter. We learn in detail, in more brief, in the from the next classes, and all the suggestion and all the modifications are welcome. And any doubt, any query, you can ask in the group. Thank you.